Welcome to Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. Well, that didn't take long. In case you missed it, the One Big Beautiful Bill made the creation of most NFA items and transfer of most NFA items a $0 tax, which itself doesn't make sense because if no money exchanges hands, how is it a tax? But that's beside the point at the moment. I made a video saying that it is a victory and good, but that it is a double-edged sword and opens up the opportunity for gun control folks to subsequently increase the tax well above $200 the next time they are in power. And we have just received a look into the crystal ball of the future on what that may look like. Senator Murphy already put forth an amendment doing just that. Now, it's clearly dead on arrival, deader than Feinstein, but it does show the headspace of some Democratic leaders. I will say, though, some of the reporting on the pro-gun side has not been very good either, not mentioning the whole thing or being inaccurate. So I'll go through the text of this proposed amendment just so it's completely clear, because though stupid, it's interesting what they decide to target because it's kind of arbitrary. The first part is the transfer rate, changing it from $200 for machine guns and $0 for anything else to $4,709 for each transfer, which is specific, but reportedly the inflation of $200 from 1934 when the tax was first imposed. It doesn't tie any inflationary rate to this new rate, but also, what a depressing indictment of the dollar. Anyways, the second section of the amendment is focused on the tax for making an item. So this would be your Form 1 when you put together an SBR at home, for example. For machine guns and destructive devices, which is already heavily regulated anyways, that is increased to $4,709. But interestingly, for any other NFA items, short-barreled rifles, suppressors, short-barreled shotguns, it's $55. So for example, it is exorbitantly expensive to transfer an SBR, but less expensive than it was before to simply make one yourself. I find that genuinely strange at first glance. I can't really see the argument that they are so bad that you can't let poor people possibly transfer them, but we can let people make them at even a lower price than before. But I think this is really about confiscation and the proliferation of NFA items. That's because for most of the SBRs and suppressors, the tax would be several times higher than what the firearm is worth, which means that they would likely have to go to the government upon death of the owners because no one's paying a $4,000 tax on your very simple AR SBR. If there's no one willing to pay the transfer tax of the NFA item, it would either be illegally possessed by someone or would be surrendered to the government to stay legal because no one's paying that. It would mean a drastic reduction in NFA items overall over time. So what does that mean? It might mean you would still want to consider a trust for your NFA items even at $0. I had kind of thought people wouldn't really do that anymore with the tax at $0, but it would protect you from any changes like the one proposed here, because not only would your relatives not be able to take possession of your SBR or other NFA items through a simple transfer if you did not have a trust, it would mean that you would lose any value as an estate in those items as well. You could essentially add people to the trust whom you would want to have access to your firearms if you die, or when you die, I guess. So there are no transfer taxes because they aren't technically transferred. It also means if you have a bunch in your name right now, it may be worth considering transferring them into a trust at this point that it's $0 to future-proof yourself from this sort of tax hike in the future. And look, this is just one senator, so I can't really use this as a crystal ball to gauge the future or say this will definitely happen. But at this point, all that's needed is a simple majority in both houses agreeing to it and someone willing to sign it. And you're going to have the most fervent gun control advocates as the ones pushing this, so it probably is more likely to be a crazy tax like this instead of just restoration of the $200. But what do you think? Do you think something like this is likely to happen in the future? Do you think that if the NFA is gutted completely that we are safe? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think a trust is a good idea at this point? I kind of dismissed them now that they're $0, but maybe there's a good point in putting them in trusts now. Let me know in the comments. If you have made it to the end of the video, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and supporting me on Patreon with the link on the screen. That's all I have for today. Thanks for watching.